Hey, gardening friends. Hey, today I got my lemonade in a mason jar because that's what you do in the country, right? And I have my black eyed peas from the garden. So I'm going to sit here and talk to you guys. I want to talk about gardening today and kind of where to start as I'm shelling my peas, okay? So I'm like multitasking, talking to you guys, because I know that many people have written me and said, man, I'm so inspired by what you do. I want to garden, but, and there's always a but. And so I want to talk about what the buts are and how you can get started with your garden. And I'm just going to tell you my journey, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So come on for the journey. Okay, so as I'm sitting here with my lemonade and my black eyed peas, I'm just gonna shell some peas while we talk. But I want to talk about your desire to start a garden. And my thing that I tell everybody is just start, right? Just start. You don't have to have a lot of land like I do to start, right? Now, I am blessed to have a lot of land, but let me just tell you something. When you have something, you always want more, right? Or you want a different kind, right? I look at other people's lands, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had that much, or oh, I wish mine was more flat. I wish mine was more rolling. And so I say all that to say is don't compare what you have to somebody else's and let that prevent you from starting, right? The other thing is, don't let the fact that you don't know what to do keep you from starting your garden, right? I didn't know what to do either. Y'all, I grew up in the projects. I grew up not remotely on land, owning any land, anybody in my family having land. And then, I was in the city. And so when I say I had never put my hands in dirt, I really had never put my hands in dirt. I hadn't planted anything. Right? So we moved to the country 2 years ago. And so I started with raised beds and containers, right? And I'll tell you, I started the summer of 2020. So literally, I've only planted 3 times. I planted the summer of 2020, and I planted the fall of 2020, and then I planted this summer, right? So this is somebody, again, I don't have a lot of experience. I'm just sharing with you my heart and the things that I know. So the first thing I started with was raised beds, because I had, with research and it was just easier for me to start that way. If you do not have a lot of land, or maybe you're in a subdivision and you can't do a raised bed, start with a container, right? Start with a container, start where you are. But if you do have land, consider, if you don't want to start within the ground, then consider a raised bed, okay? So I started with 4 raised beds that my husband and my son built for me. Let me tell you, they had never built a raised bed before either, right? And so we just asked around. One of the things, if you're going to do a raised bed, is to make sure that you have some good wood, right? Cedar obviously is the top of the line and the best, but it can be hard to find and it can be expensive. So know what type of wood you're going to get for your raised bed. We went with, I think I have one that's pine, which is not necessarily the preferred, but that's all I could get my hands on at the time. And then I have white oak, right? Which is a pretty, reasonable type of wood for a raised bed. The reason why the type of wood is important is because, again, you spend more money on the cedar, but it's going to last you longer, right? It has a life of like 5 to 7 years, if I'm not mistaken, versus if you go with like a softwood or something that deteriorates really quickly, then yeah, it'll be cheaper for you to begin, but you may have to build you another raised bed in a couple of years, right? So one is start and know what you have to work with. Are you going to start with a raised bed? Are you going to start with a container? Or are you going to start with putting something in the ground, right? So that's the first decision is, what do I have to work with, right? So do I have land? Am I in an apartment? Am I on a patio? Like, what do I have to work with? That's number one, is to know what you're going to plant in. Okay. So that's one of the first things I would say if you're just starting out. Okay. So then once you know kind of what you're going to plant in, then the next thing that I would suggest that I had to figure out is know what zone you're in. So again, me starting off, I'm like, what does that mean? What zone am I in? So you can look it up. So just put your city and state, type it into Google, and put what planting zone, right? So there are zones, and I'm not going to get all technical, but there are zones. The whole United States is sectioned off or categorized by different zones that tell you, it helps to determine, what you can plant when, what things thrive in your climate. And it takes into account how long your summers are, how long your winters are, how much does it freeze, when does it freeze, all of that good kind of stuff. Again, I'm putting it in layman's terms, the way that I understand it. Okay. But find out what zone you're in. Okay, I live in Tennessee and I'm in zone 7A, right? I want to say that I have a friend in Florida. She's in zone, I think 9 or 10, right? And that, that means that we can't grow some of the same stuff, right? Because in Florida, it stays warmer longer and they don't really have a true winter, right? And there are some things that need that cold. And there are other things that don't need a lot of heat, right? So know what zone you're in. So find that out too. And all you got to do is Google it. That's it. Just Google, if you live in Atlanta, Georgia, put in Atlanta, Georgia, what is my planting zone? And you're going to get what your planting zone is. Okay, so next. Now we know we're going to plant in, whether we're going to do a raised bed, we're going to do it in the ground, we're going to do a container, or we're going to do a combination of all three, depending on what we have to work with. Then we're going to know what our zone is. And then the next thing is to figure out what you're going to plant, right? So a large part of what you're going to plant depends on what time of the year is it, and what grows in your area, right? So if it's September, like it is when I'm doing this video, then I can't plant tomatoes right now in my zone. Why? Because I don't have enough time. They need heat, right? And they have a maturity date, that can be anywhere from 60 to 90 days, right? And 90 days here, it's going to be cold. Tomatoes are not going to survive, right? And so even in my greenhouse, I may be able to do it in my greenhouse, but definitely not outside. So know what you're going to plant, and that's going to depend on what time of year it is, what your zone is, and all of that good stuff. So you don't want to make the mistake of planting a fall crop that prefers the cold and winter and doing it in the heat of the summer. And then it doesn't work. And then you're like, see, I have a brown thumb. I can't garden. No, make sure that what you planted is something that is appropriate for your planting zone and for the time of the year, right? Like collards, like collard greens. I just planted for my fall garden, and they can stand the cold, right? They actually taste better after the first frost. Now, of course, you have to cover them and they can't get too cold, but you don't plant collard greens in the summertime, right? When there's tons and tons of heat, right? And so you have vegetables or things like that are called frost hardy, meaning they're okay in the cold, or they prefer the cold. You wouldn't plant those in the middle of the summer, right? So that's why I'm saying figuring out what you're going to plant and making sure that you're planting something at the right time of the year for your zone. Because I don't want you to plant something and it was the wrong time and that's why it didn't grow. And you're like, man, see, that's why I don't garden. No, 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 no. So y'all, that's kind of how I started. So with my raised beds, I started there. And one, because it was easy, it's contained. I didn't have to till the ground and get it prepared. And, my husband, again, he was going to till it and he was, quite busy. So the raised beds at first worked for us, great. He could build it. And once he got the hang of it, he could do it pretty quickly. Right. So you can figure out what size you want your beds to be. All of my raised beds are 4x8. Right. So that works for me. I can get to the center of my bed without having to reach so far. It's a good length for me. And so again, you can figure out what works, for you, but be aware of what length you want it. And you want to make sure that it's not so wide that you can't even get in the middle of it when you're planting in there. Okay. So those are the things to think about. So I would love to know what tips you have for new gardeners. Please go ahead and put it down below in the comments. It'll help somebody. Maybe it's something that I didn't touch on, something that you found over time. So again, y'all, I've only planted like 3 seasons, right? Summer of 2020, summer of 2021, and then fall of 2020. And let me tell you, all my stuff didn't germinate. All my stuff didn't come up or survive the way, because I've made some mistakes. But that's okay, right? The mistakes I made last year, I won't make this year. I'll make new ones, right? And so I just want to encourage you to start, right? It is amazing to put a seed in the ground and to pray over that seed and water it and then see the little sprigs of grass and stuff come up. It's amazing to know that you're eating food that you grew. It's amazing to know that you can grow your own food and you don't have to rely on what Publix has or what Trader Joe's has. Like, that is amazing, right? And so I want to encourage you to start somewhere, right? Start somewhere. Put down in the comments below, if you have never, ever, ever gardened, put down in the comments below when you're going to start and what's the first thing you're going to do. I want to know, right? Also, if you have any tips for other gardeners, I want you to put it down below. But I think that those 3 things at least get you on your way. So know where you're going to plant. Is it going to be a raised bed, a container, or in the ground? Know your planting zone, and then know what you're going to plant, right? The other thing I would say is buy quality seeds, right? And when I say quality, meaning I do organic gardening. So all the seeds I buy are organic, open pollinated, or heirloom seeds, right? So I don't want, seeds that are hybrid. That's my personal choice, meaning, it's been mixed, a tomato and a grape been mixed together. Like, I don't want that. I want an actual tomato, right? I want, organic. I don't want something that's been treated with like chemicals. I don't want GMO. So get quality seeds based on whatever it is you're trying to grow, right? It doesn't mean that you have to buy the most expensive seeds. It's just saying get quality. And there's so many seed companies that you can get. And even if you have a local Dollar Tree close to you in like February, check your Dollar Tree. They have heirloom seeds that are 4 packs for $1, 25 cents a pack. Now the pack, you don't get a ton of seeds. You may get like 20, 25 seeds, but y'all, for 25 cents, that's cheap. And you know what? They grow just like the $4 pack seeds, right? You just don't get as much in there. So get you some quality seeds and know exactly where you're, what kind of seeds you want, and making sure that you're getting some quality seeds for sure. Then after that, y'all, there's nothing to it but to do it, right? Get you some dirt, some good dirt. Get you some good compost, right? Put your seed in the ground, pray over it, water it, and watch it grow. It's just that simple, right? So I hope that this was helpful to just kind of give you a couple of starting points, right? About where to start and what to do. You can take those 3 things and you can start. You have enough to be dangerous. So I can't wait to hear about your journey and what you decide to do. And certainly leave any questions or comments down below. If you like this video and you like the content I'm sharing, please subscribe to my channel. I love hearing from you guys, and would love to know what else you would like to see. Until next time, let's grow together.